Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, guys, welcome to another special episode of the Strength Coach Podcast. We do this every month with Vince Gabriele, founder of Gabriele Fitness Performance and Fitness Business University. Vince, coming straight from Providence, the Perform Better Functional Training Summit. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. All right. So the summits are over. So this is the time, like I'm even going to do this with Coach Boyle. We can talk about your topic, right? So it's almost like, they black out baseball. You can't watch a baseball game in your hometown if they don't sell it out. So we're allowed to talk about lectures now. So I do want to go over your 5 ways to get more small group clients today. But Vince, I get a lot of people asking me about speaking on the Perform Better tour. So I always say, first of all, make sure you're practicing and learning how to speak. That's what I love about Jenny Rurick. I know you've done some stuff with Thomas Plummer, but for me, Jenny Rurick's Fit to Speak is an amazing resource for all fitness people to be able to learn how to communicate, not just speaking, but it's also about kind of showing up. So before we get into 5 ways to get more small group clients, I've heard the story before and I love it. And I thank God the bar was not there, that it closed down when I was in Chicago with you, because I'm sure I would have been tricked in going there. So yeah. I do want you to talk about, how do people get on? I know you're with like 100, you have 100 gym owners that want to speak on the Perform Better tour, and they got to be asking you, Vince, how do we get on this? But how do we do it?
So the real story of how I got on was I talked to Charlie Weingroff, and I was an attendee for 15 years. And I said, Charlie, what do I do? I want to speak on the Perform Better tour. And he's like, well, you got to go talk to Chris if you want to do that. And he's like, the next seminar is in Chicago. Just go out there and talk to Chris. And I was like, well, when is it? And he goes, it's tomorrow. And I jumped on a flight and flew to Chicago for that specific reason only. I had planned to go to the Providence one, right? But I wanted to fast track this, and I wanted to get this kind of moving. And I ended up talking, with Chris, and he's an amazing person, amazing guy. He's so nice. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life. He's such a cool guy.
Totally.
He's the best. So, I had, a couple people recommending me, Charlie, Boyle, Plummer, people like that. And so it was kind of like, he knew I was, coming to talk to him about it, and we got to talking, and we had a great conversation. And I was like, left and was like, I think it went okay. I'm not really sure. And, I was sitting at the bar, and I was with Big Tom. You remember Big Tom, right? And me and Big Tom
Langton,
and me and Big Tom, we're sitting at the bar, and we were just like in for the night, tired, and all of a sudden the Perform Better crew comes to the bar, and they're all like rowdy, all those guys are all like getting rearing up, ready to go, and they're like all loud and stuff. And so we start talking to them while they're at the bar, and they were leaving for dinner, and they were like, hey, we're going to a restaurant, you guys want to come? And I was like, yeah. All right, cool. And I was like, I guess. And I was like, this was like, bonus time. I didn't expect something like this. I kind of expected just to talk to Chris for a few minutes, but not to be invited to go out to dinner with the Perform Better crew. And we ended up going to this restaurant, and I don't think you were there. I think it was me and Martin. I think Charlie was
I was
there.
not there.
You were not there. But Martin Rooney was there. Martin and I, every time we see each other, we tell the story. But so it's at one of these German restaurants where they go around to each table, and the waitress comes with this huge wooden paddle, and they like pick someone at the table to like bend over the table, and the waitress takes this running start and smacks you in the ass with a paddle, right? And so the lady gets to the table, and she's like, all right, who's up? And Chris looks at me and points his finger and goes, Vince. get over here. And so I get up to the table and I got my hands on the table and bent over, and Chris is like right in front of me, like deadlocked in my eyes. I think he was 3 or 4 steins of beer. The beers are like, you can't see this on the beers are huge. So he had 3 of those, and he's like looking at me, dead in the eyes, and he's like, Vince, if you flinch, there's not a chance you'll ever speak on the Perform Better tour. And he goes, he's like, if you can hold still and hold and hang in there, I'll consider you. And so she smashed me 3 times, and I did not move a muscle. I was like, I came all the way out here to Chicago. I'm not screwing this up. And I didn't move a muscle. And that next year, I was a speaker on the Perform Better tour. So
Did you have to walk?
That's the story. Yeah, we did walk home actually. Yeah. That is the actual story. But what I want to do is tell more of the real story, right? And the real story is how I created the relationships to be able to even be in the position, right? Because you know how it is. Like the way Chris works is like he's a relationship guy. Perform Better is a relationship company, right? That's what they're built on. They're built on strong, really good, long. I mean, if you look at their staff, some of their staff has been there forever. I mean, I knew Conrad, who's my rep for my equipment. I'm going on close to a 20-year relationship with him. I mean, it's nuts, right? So they're a relationship business. And so the lesson I always tell people is, yeah, I showed up to Chicago, I got slapped in the ass with a paddle, and then all of a sudden I got to speak. But the real answer is I showed up to Perform Better for 15 years and was a student of that program for 15 years. But I was a student in 3 levels. Okay. And this is what I want to teach everybody, which I think will be informative, right? So there's 3 levels of what you can go to learn from live events and things like this, right? So the first level is you show up and hopefully don't fall asleep, right? You show up to these lectures, you got your notebook, you're taking notes, you're listening to what they're saying, you're thinking about how it applies to your business, and you go home and you take action and you get something out of it, right? So that's a very valuable thing, to do, right? So that's layer 1. Layer 2 is you got this expert in front of you, someone like Gray Cook or Martin Rooney or Mike Boyle, right? And these people are like, they're the best in the world at what they're doing. That's why they're there, right? And they're human beings, right? They're not like getting from the Perform Better stage, going behind the curtain and getting on their private jet and flying home. They're not doing that. They're coming off the stage and they're hanging out and they're talking, right? And so I always kind of like, all right, like these guys are around, like Boyle's right over there. Like, I'm just gonna go talk to him, right? And so the layer number 2 is the insights that you can get from presenters during the conference outside of their talk. That's maybe you asking questions during their talk. That's maybe you going up to them afterwards and asking a question. That's maybe you talking to them at the social that Perform Better always has. That's maybe you grabbing them in the hallway. That's maybe you grabbing them and asking them to go to coffee the next morning or dinner that night. Hey, can I buy you? I mean, I've had many people offer to buy me dinner at the Perform Better thing, like clients, like random people. I always decline, but it's very nice of them, to do, because typically usually there's plans like, ahead of time and stuff like that. But I know I did that with several people, several different presenters, where I asked them to grab when we buy a cup of coffee, let me buy lunch and vendor at the thing, right? So that's layer 2, is like, while you're there, are you leveraging the opportunity to get inside the minds of these people? Here's layer number 3. And this is what nobody ever does. Do you follow up with them after? Nobody does. I don't understand why, but nobody does it. And I have several instances in my life where I have personal relationships with very, very, very high level people that most people do not have personal relationships because of this process. 1, imagine this, you just thank them. You just thank them. You just say, hey, I saw you speak. I was in the audience. I was the guy, that big goofy. I always call myself the big goofy Italian guy, right? The big goofy Italian guy that came up to you and I was asking you this question about this. And I just wanted to send you this note and thank you. You did a great job. And people like to be told good job, right? People like to be told good job. And what most people think is like, because someone's speaking on a stage that they're like untouchable or they don't need that. And it's like, that's not true. That's not true at all. And so I always made the habit of following up with people afterwards, right? And then what I always made the habit of doing after that is after I followed up, I wanted to do business with those people, right? So I first became good friends with Charlie through doing business with him. I thanked him. And actually, it's funny, the story of Charlie, how I met Charlie was I listened to him on your podcast, right? And he was on your podcast. And I love the podcast. I emailed him, said, awesome podcast. It was great. Thanks so much. And then I said, by the way, do you do private consulting? And he says, yes, I do. And I hired Charlie Weingarf for a day to come up to my facility and I say, I want you to pick apart my training system. Here's everything we do. I want you to pick it apart. I have no ego. I'm not going to get offended. I want you to tell me how we can make this better. And for 8 hours, Charlie sat with us and said, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. This was way back in the day, early Gabriel Fitness days. Early. This is 2010 or something like that. And you would be mind-boggled of how little money I paid Charlie for that day, right? Because he was like kind of just getting into it, right? He wasn't even speaking at Perform Better at the time. Right? This was even before he was speaking and everything like that. So it was a while ago, right? But and then I started referring him clients, and then I actually brought him back up again, did this, and I started referring him more patients. And then we, created a friendship over time. Same thing with Tom Plummer.
Yep.
I attended all of his lectures. I bought all his books. I did all this. I hired him for private consulting, right? So the best way you can start to build relationships with people, you want to start with, and I can call Plummer, anytime I want and talk shop for 3 hours, right? I can call Charlie if I have a problem. If one of my kids has an issue with orthopedic issue, I'm calling Charlie, right? Because I know it's like, but there's a personal relationship that was built there. And I think that is, and I'm not saying you have to do that or take that route, but there's a deeper level that you can go with your learning. And there's people that are at the top of their game that when you become friends with them, right, when they consider you a colleague, you're going to be able to get a lot more knowledge than you could from just reading in their book. And the cool thing is I've been on the other side of it now, right? So now I've been able to sit in a room with some high level people that like asking me questions. Like, I'm not going to mention who, but like there's people that I used to sit in the stands and have that are in awe, just be like, oh my God, these people are the smartest people, that are texting me and asking me business questions. And it's just like, It's weird how it comes full circle, but you have to kind of provide value. So the whole thing about speaking and Perform Better, because this is how we started. A lot of guys are asking me like, oh, how do you speak and perform? What do you do? What do you do? Well, you don't just like fill out an application. I'll tell you that right now. If you fill out an application and Chris doesn't know who the hell you are, there's a 0% chance that you're getting on. A 0% chance. Right. So you have to show up. You have to be around. You have to be interested. You have to shake hands. You have to, and obviously you have to get up there. And if you do get a shot, you got one shot, you only get one shot you don't get two chances. Like you get one shot to stay or go, and most go, right? Because you can only, I look at we were looking at the list and, people have been there 25 years.
Yeah. Like, I couldn't agree with you more, because you look at with me, you said nobody does it, but I did it. I emailed Chris after every conference, after every I said, Chris, this was awesome. Thanks for your hospitality, blah, blah, blah. I emailed Mark Verstegen, Greg Cook. Obviously, with Mike, you said about asking a question. When Functional Strength Coach 1 when there was 2 spots open, you had to email Mike to say who you were, what your background was. It was all high level guys. I was probably the lowest level. I just said, hey, Mike, I just got back from the Exos mentorship. I work at Equinox, and I have functional training for sports. I'd love to come to Functional Training Coach 1. He goes, yes, you're in. I remember you asked me a question about functional training. And then I went up to Mike at Perform Better to say, hey, I'm coming to your Functional Training Coach 1. And we had a beer together. And then we had beers at Functional Training Coach 1. And then I introduced him to Geraldine Coopersmith at Equinox. He was the head of Equinox Fitness, and she started booking him. I booked him at Frank Dolan's place. So I'm starting to make Mike money, right? And all this stuff. And that was the way we did it, but always having that communication. I do want to say, you mentioned, hey, ask people, you want breakfast, you want coffee. Try to do that ahead of time, which you did to me when we were going out to the College Groves mentorship.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Hey, Aunt, we know each other through traincoach.com, but
right, we didn't know each other personally, right?
Then we ended up not just going to we went to Anaheim Ducks game, because now, guys, I would have went to that by myself or asked somebody there, like, hey, I'm going to the game. But Vince contacted me ahead of time, and we spent like 3 hours in traffic getting there.
Awesome.
And then we went to the game. Like, that was cemented our relationship.
Totally, yeah. That was a
you
moment.
Even had your in-laws' truck or something, right? Didn't you have your in-laws' truck? Right? Yeah. So we went down there. So there you go.
Hilarious.
But really, that's real life stuff. It's not bullshit. Vince isn't saying. This is the stuff that we did to kind of develop and cement those relationships, and bought a lot of product from Perform Better too. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think it's like, and that's what I love about, we have a mastermind that's 102 gym owners in it right now. And it's like, those guys are creating those relationships with each other now. Like we got guys that have become best friends, within, so it's not even just, a business relationship, right? There's personal like bonds that are formed through the industry. Some of my best friends are from the fitness industry, right? I have a good solid handful of friends from back home and friends from college, but I have another really strong handful of friends like that I consider very, very good friends that I've met. And it's just like, if you really look at happiness, right? I think there's a study done on happiness. It's just like the number one indicator of happiness is your relationships, right? So if you want to have, happiness, have really good relationships. If you look at, what it's like when we all go, I had dinner with Frank Nash, on Thursday night. We do it every year, every Thursday night before Perform Better. He and I have dinner. It's like a tradition. That's what we do. And it's just like catching up. It's amazing. It's just like, it's really powerful stuff. So this is a business that there are a lot of people that are willing and able to help you get where you want to go, but you got to do your part to put yourself in front of them to be able to make that happen.
Yep, absolutely. Good stuff. Well, speaking of which, let's talk about what you were, what you
it was
told a packed room.
It was a packed room. It was a packed room. And I was a little nervous because Boyle was speaking at the same time, but there was a good amount of people at the total amount of people at the conference.
People are so tired of that guy.
But I'm not tired of him. But I think he's amazing. But it was a really, really packed room, and it was a great energy room. It was a really, really good room. I had to yell at some guy because he kept asking questions, and I was like, dude, you gotta stop asking questions, right? Because it gets, how it is, it interrupts your flow, right? You're in the flow of speaking, and like some guy asks a question, I was like, oh, I don't want this, and what about one of those what about this questions? Well, what if you did it like this? I was like, I don't know, you tell me. Like, why are you asking me? Right?
Try it and report back next year.
But yeah, my topic was 5 ways to get more small group personal training clients. And the cool thing was, like, almost everyone in the audience, it was like well over 100 people, were currently doing small group training. So it's really cool to see that, what was started originally by the Rick Mayos of the world and Thomas Plummer And the Cosgroves, obviously, you know, what started, you know, this whole small group thing, which took honestly, a really long time. I mean, I believe it's taken way too long for people to catch on and be like, all right, this is a model where you can make a lot of money doing it. And I think a lot of people, they did one-on-one and they dabbled in it and they like, oh, let me try the small group thing. And like sticking a baked potato on a steak menu, like, oh, yo, now we have baked potatoes. Like, it's not going to work like that. Like, small group training works when it's the thing that you do, not some side dish or something that you just put on the menu. But that is why so many people have failed with it. That's honestly why so many big box gyms fail with it. So many big box gyms fail with it because they're like, oh, we do small group training now, right? And the reason why they fail at it is because it's another item on the menu, like, oh, we have a juice bar, oh, we do small group training, oh, we do this. And they don't treat it almost like a separate company or a separate business. And that's really what actually makes it fly and what makes it grow. So what I did was, you know, so I think the whole business model thing in and of itself is a whole nother topic. I really focused on, you know, how to get new clients. That was kind of my focus. And I unpacked 5 things. So here's the first one. The first one was just the clarity around target market, right? And understanding who you're marketing to and who you're trying to get to buy this. This is like the most important part of marketing anything, right? I have people come to me all the time with business ideas and like, hey, Vince, I got this coaching program. Hey, Vince, I got this. And I'm just like, well, who do you want to buy it? And that's like the only question I ask, because that's the most important thing. It's just like the person that's on the other end that you're trying to solve the problem for is the most important thing to focus on when you're considering marketing. And most people don't do that. They skip to, oh, I want to try this Instagram hack. Oh, I want to try this Facebook ad. Oh, I want to send emails, right? But at the end of the day, they don't really have clarity around, you know, who they're trying to get into the gym. And there's really 3 levels, right, to those people. There's the geographic. So it's like, where are these people, right? And the geographics is interesting too, because it's nothing to think about like this. So geographics, what do people think of? Where they live, right? Where their home is. But if you really think of geographics also, it's where are they right now? So, Ant, it's 4:29. Where is the mom of 3 right now? You know where she is?
Picking up kids somewhere.
She's in her car. Yeah. That is exactly where she is. She's in the car. My wife is right now sitting in the jiu-jitsu parking lot waiting for my son to get out. By the way, Joey had a huge match the other day. It was absolutely incredible. It was absolutely incredible. I love jiu-jitsu more than anything in the world. I'm doing it and I'm terrible at it, but for my son who's 2 years in and about to get his gray and black belt, it is like absolutely every kid should do jujitsu. Every child living should do it. It's amazing. So there's geographics, right? But it's like, where are they right now? And start to think about that question. Where are they right now? And that will lead you down to the path of who you're going to do joint ventures with. What type of marketing are you going to be doing? So what is it, you know, what would you originally think if they're in their car? Oh, well, let's market on the radio, right? Well, what are they doing in their car? They're on their damn phone. That's what they're doing on their car. They're not reading books. They're not getting out and exercising, right? They're on their phone and they're doing this. They're scrolling for an hour. They got 60 minutes of scroll time, and that's what they're doing. So you should be on social and you should be running ads on Facebook because they got that thing on their phone and they're sitting there for an hour. That's where they are. So that's geographics. Understand where they are, where do they live, right? And obviously you want to, you know, target, you know, the areas close to your gym, right? But also start to think about where they are physically throughout their day. The second piece is the demographics, right? Demographics are the facts, right? This is like, you know, how old they are and how much money they make and, you know, how many children they have and what their job is and all that stuff. That's facts. That's simple, easy to know, easy to find. And that's all the basic stuff, right? And the third layer of who they are is the psychographics, right? And the psychographics is why they buy, right? It's the psychology part of it. It's what is the thing that they're staying up late at night, staring at the ceiling, worried about, right? And I promise you this, they're not worried about the lack of a small group personal trainer in their life. They're worried about something else. And it is up to us as gym owners to be able to understand the problems that these people have that are going to cause them to want to hire us to do personal training. So that's the layers. And I always tell the story of Vanessa when I got her. You know, the story was I got, Vanessa likes vodka and lemonade, and vodka and lemon, right? So vodka and water with lemon, and I don't know, it was like a couple of months ago, and I just started putting a bunch of sugar in it. And she's like drinking it, and she's drinking it down. She's like, "This is delicious. Oh my God." Like she guzzled one. She's like, "Can I get another one?" So I was like, I made her another one real quick. Right. All of a sudden, I make her 3 vodka lemonade, spiked, right? Passed out, 8 a.m. Done.
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Sorry. Sleeps through her workout, misses the workout, right? And we're on date night that night. And she's like, I feel like such shit. She's like, I feel awful right now. I feel like I want to puke. One reason because you poisoned me, but the other reason was that I didn't work out this morning. And I didn't work out, and it threw me off, and I didn't have my normal routine and didn't have my day, and my day was crap. The kids were on my nerves. I'm just like, when she was just like going at it, right? She's in rare form, Vanessa. And I started taking on my notepad or my phone and taking notes. And I was like, what's it like, honey, when you don't work out? And she's telling me, and she's rattling off the list, and she kind of knows what I'm doing at that point. So she starts rolling her eyes. She's like, "You're never not working, right?" And then I was like, "Well, what's it like when you do work out?" And she starts rattling off. But this is like the stuff that people. This is the inside the mind, right? They always say, "What the job of the marketer is to go inside the mind, enter the conversation already going on in the prospect's mind." Well, what I did was I entered my wife's mind of all the stuff that goes to her minds when she doesn't work out, when she does work out, what it means to her, what it means to her when she doesn't work out. And all of that is beautiful, beautiful things that I can put in my emails, in my ads, in my everything in my marketing. And the problem is with people that they don't identify that person first, right? And you got to identify that person first. Who is it? And then once you go identify that person, you have to go deep inside their mind and figure out why they buy. So that was kind of the first point that we covered. The second point, I'm just gonna keep going. The second point was the marketing glove. I talked about this a bunch on the show before, so I'll go over this one quickly. But one of the things was, so very quickly, the marketing glove, if those of you haven't heard this before, is there needs to be multiple ways that your business is generating leads. If you only have one, you put your business at risk, right? Like people did in 2014 when they marketed on Facebook, and the only thing they had was they put a piece of dog poop on Facebook, and all of a sudden they got all these leads, right? And then all of a sudden Facebook changed, and they panicked because they had 0 leads coming in because of Facebook dried up, right? And so what you got to understand is that your marketing department needs to have multiple ways to generate leads to make your company strong, right? And so what I started to do is I started to ask the audience what they were doing right now. Okay. And what I asked them specifically was, and some of them you could tell, like they were like almost a little, I don't really know. I don't really know. And the question I asked them was, where did your last client come from? And I had them reverse engineer that process. Tell me exactly where your last client came from. And when you kind of reverse engineer where your last client came from, you can start to see what are the things that you are using for marketing and what are the fingers of your glove. But the big point was this. You got to have multiple things happening. If you got one, start 2. If you got 2, do 3, and on and on and on we go. So that was the marketing glove, but you need multiple things happening. If you just rely on one thing, or you just rely on word of mouth, honestly, it's going to be a tough, long climb. Okay. Number three was the follow-up process, right? And I've also done stuff on this before,
Yep.
but basically the fortune of your business in the follow-up. And I have a slide that I put up there, and I basically say, if I was to buy a business, one of the first things that I would do is I would pull the list of unconverted leads. I would pull the list of unconverted trial members and consults. I would pull the list of former members, and then pull the list of clients that are frozen, like have frozen their membership, right? And I would take those 4 lists and I would start texting, calling, emailing, Facebook messaging, all of those people. And it's likely that I'd probably make my money back from buying that business, right? And so what I think gym owners don't understand is how important this part of their business is, and the massive amount of money that people are leaving on the table by not having systems built around this stuff, right? So you definitely need that initial follow-up process, right? You need that, if a lead comes in, the faster you get to them, the bigger the likelihood, the larger the likelihood that you're going to get that person as a client. But the problem is there's only a certain percentage of those people that are going to buy. People are like, people like consider like someone not buying as a dead lead. And that's like not even further from the truth. Like they're not dead leads. They're just not ready to buy yet. Like you can't force people of when they're actually going to buy. You can only be there when the problem that you're trying to solve or they want solved moves to the top of their to-do list that day. And that's why you need long-term follow-up in addition to short-term follow-up, right? So you need a long-term, you need to be emailing people 3 times a week, right? That's why your emails are so important, is because your emails are the things that are getting people that maybe opted in for your gym 6 months ago, but they're still getting your emails. If they opt in 6 months ago and you call them 3 times and they don't call you back, and then you never contact them again, they're gone forever. Like they ain't coming in, they're gone, right? So you got to understand that you have this opportunity, and it doesn't take a lot, but there's a fortune in your follow-up process. That was point number 3.
3.
Saying a lot of words here. It's funny, Vanessa and I were watching church on Sunday night, and it was a marriage thing on church, and it basically said that men only use 7,000 words a day, and that women use like 27,000. And
Really?
so unfortunately, I have to tell Vanessa on the days I record this podcast with you that I've used all my words, and I'm not able to speak when I get home. Sorry, I hit 8,000. I hit 8,000 on the podcast today. Okay, so number 4 is referrals, and I always love the example of this. It's like, think about the phone call you get, and that someone calls up and says, "Hey, my name's John. I'm really good friends with Mike, who's been a client of yours for like 5 years, and Mike was raving about you guys, and I'm out of shape. I need to get rolling. I don't care what it costs. Sign me up." Like, doesn't even want to come in for a consult. Like, I don't care what it costs. Sign me up. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'll sign a year commitment and pay in full. Right? Like, think about that phone call like that you get, right? And imagine like getting a lot of those, right? And imagine how great that is for your business to get a lot of those. The problem is, and that does happen, right? But it usually happens rarely, and it happens by accident. And what we need to do in our companies is start to create events, things, processes that happen that give people the opportunity to refer. Right now, the caveat to this is you got to do a damn good job, right? You do gotta get referrals, but you do got to get some referrals by accident, right? Because that just means you're doing a good job. If you're not getting any referrals at all, it probably means you're not doing that great of a job, right? So it's almost like you should get some, but you're going to get who you would have gotten anyway. And the goal of having a referral system is that you're doing things, that you're putting systems in place that are actually generating referrals. And then when I went through a few different intentional tactics for that, but it's basically like, all right, you do this thing that you did generated someone calling you and coming in to sign up for your gym, right? And the more of those that we can do, the more referrals that we're going to get, right? So I kind of went through that process, and then I went through the whole process of gifting. I talked about what they need to give. What is the prize that they should be giving to people if they do refer, and then I talked about how to use T-shirts and logos and shakers and all that stuff.
I do
Yeah,
want
go
to
ahead.
mention before you go on is guys, episode 361.5, our special episode with Vince, he went pretty deep into the whole referral thing. It's a really, really good episode talking about all, like what he just said, intentional tactics and the reward system and this omnipresence.
That's
And
actually that's actually a good point, Ant, that we can almost make this episode like an episode where they can kind of go deeper, because I also did one on follow-up with you, I believe.
yes, you did. You
Yeah,
did.
so maybe we can kind of like, when you put the points in the show notes, you can link
Yeah, I
the
will.
other show.
Yeah, I will.
But
Absolutely.
that's a great point.
And the marketing gloves, same thing. We've done that a few
Yeah.
times. I will point everybody back to that.
Yeah, so now you can go a lot deeper. I'm kind of scraping the surface just for time's sake,
Yeah.
for these today. But yeah, I think we did an almost not for each one, but we pretty much did an individual podcast for each of these. So
Yeah.
that would be helpful. Yeah, and the last one is something I created called the Angel List. And the story goes is that there was a guy named John who, when I first opened my business, I was training his 3 kids, and he was really liking what I was doing with his 3 kids. So he started sending me clients, and like my phone started ringing off the hook. This is back when I had a flip phone, right? My flip phone started ringing off the hook, which I do believe are potentially making a comeback. Vanessa and I have been
I
talking.
know.
Vanessa and I have been talking about getting our kids flip phones, which I would love to do. I don't think we're gonna be able to pull it off, but uh, so this guy John, and he started referring me all these clients, and my phone's ringing off the hook, and people are like, I'm like, how did you hear about me? And they're like, John had it. I'm like, how did you remember? John had it. John had it. John had it. And so this guy, and I was like, I said this out loud. I was like, this guy's like my angel, because he was sending me all these clients on all these business. So I was like, imagine if I had more John Haddads. And that's exactly what I did. I wrote down a bunch of different people like John that were connected in the community. And I started calling them and reaching out to them and creating relationships with them. And all of a sudden, I had one John Haddad, and then it became 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And my entire business was built around this concept. My entire business, people are very, a lot of people we hit 1 million, 7 figures in revenue faster than most gyms have ever even heard of, right? And we didn't run any Facebook ads before we hit 7 figures. It was all local grassroots marketing, and it was really built around these relationships of this angel list. So this is a powerful thing. This is something we still do today. I don't want to hear like, oh, Vince, that's very 2008 of you. No, this still works. Today, go out and find people in your community that essentially already have a list of people that you want, right? So think about the salon owner that's a mile away from your gym, that's got 5,000 people on his list that he cuts hair for, and all of them would be great candidates to train at your gym. Well, that person is a great person to build a relationship with and to partner with and to do things with, where you can do things back and forth and synergistically. So the angel list is a list of 101 people like this. And that's what the assignment for you guys today is, to go home and write down 101 names of people that are either leaders of businesses, organizations, school programs, youth programs, whatever it is, and that are in charge of those programs and have the ability to put you in front of their audience that potentially will be your client. That is one of the most powerful exercises you could ever do. And that was point number 5.
Very cool. What if? No. the Providence question boy.
What is that?
No, I said, what if the angel list? What if I only have 59?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I
Um,
had to scold him a little bit. It was really funny. There's this woman, very nice woman, sitting in the front, like very in the front row, and I was like talking, and I started like getting all into it. I'm like talking, and I felt myself like getting like really close to her, and I could see her like this. She was like kind of like cowering, like, is this guy gonna like jump on me? It was hilarious. And I kept like apologizing to her. I was like, sorry, I'm gonna back up a little bit. It was really funny. It was a good crowd. Like a lot of little things, cool things happened like that. I think there was some guy sleeping in the back. I definitely think he was completely passed out. Like, I don't know if he was drunk or what, but he was like out cold. He was but he was like sleeping the whole time. Like, I didn't put him to sleep. I think he I don't know if he was still sleeping from the presenter before me or something. He just never woke up. But yeah, there was some interesting interesting stuff flying around. And we were at the social, and the cool thing was, Ant, we had about 15 mastermind members at Providence. It was really cool. Like, these guys were
very cool.
there. They brought their staffs. It was a really, really cool thing to see the SPF mastermind have such a strong showing at the Perform Better event. And sitting there talking with John Doherty, who he's phenomenal gym owner. He's killing it right now. And we're talking with Devin Gage, who is also doing really well, and Devin was actually the SPF gym owner of the year last year. And actually John was the first runner up. So I'm talking to these guys, and a girl comes over and starts asking us, questions. And you could tell she was like, she had a small business, and she was asking about getting into the mastermind. And she was almost like a little like shy about it. And she's like, how like much money do I need to be making to get into, mastermind? And the funny part was, I looked over at John, who is doing, I think, $98,000 a month right now. That's what his business is generating, $98,000 a month. And I look at him and I smile. And 4 years ago, I was like, John, where were you at when you joined the SPF Mastermind? Or I think you joined Surge and then the Mastermind. So I don't think he joined the Mastermind doing this. I think he joined Surge first, but he was at $4,000 a month 4 years ago.
Wow.
And he's at 97 now. And so he was like, it was awesome. He told her the story of like how he went through Surge. And it was incredible. But that's like the cool things about these events is like stuff like that happens. Like when you're like, imagine like being a gym owner and you're like just starting out, and you hear someone that's like doing the same amount of money you're doing, and 4 years later they're like killing it. And like, but that's like, it's like the whole Roger Bannister principle. Like that girl probably didn't think that was possible to do in that short amount of time. She probably thinks like that's not even fathomable. But now she's like literally talking eye to eye with the guy that just did it. Right. So it's cool. And that's why I love these events. I love the social part of it. I love the questions that are asked. I love, although I didn't drink any beer, I love I watched Boyle drink a lot of beer. I didn't drink any beer. He was making fun of me for drinking water, but I was 75 hard, so no beer for me.
Again, 75 hard.
Yeah, I restarted. I think I can't remember when I started. I don't know. It's all a blur.
It's all a blur. All right. Well, what do you got for our listeners, Vince? Last time you said, I just want you to listen to my podcast. Go subscribe to my podcast. The time before that, we talked about a webinar that you were doing. What's going on?
So, I feel like everybody sometimes has my book, but I think there's a lot of people that don't have my book. And I think if you listen to the stuff and you get something out of it, like having a copy of my book and reading it would probably be a really good idea. And so I'm going to gift your audience a copy of my book for free. If you have it already. Well, if you have it already, here's my ask. Send the link to a friend that you think would get value from it. That's my ask. If you already have a copy, if you've read The Ultimate Guide to Marketing Your Gym, and you have a copy, you've already read it, my ask for you is that you send the link to a friend and tell them, hey, I read this book and it wasn't that bad. Try it out. if you haven't read my book and you want to read it, it's go to That's my podcast one. It is vincesfreebook.com. So if you want a free copy, it's a digital download, a free copy of the book, Ultimate Guide to Marketing Your Gym. It's my kind of flagship book on marketing for gym owners. You go to vincesfreebook.com. Ant will put the link in the show notes, and then hopefully you go and read it and enjoy it.
All right, Vince. Well, thanks for doing this. Great stuff as always. And we'll talk to you next month.
Thanks, Ant.
All right.